I've been working in the industry for 15 years, more than 15 years, and off late, I've been extensively working on Azure a lot. I'm an enterprise architect. I'm also a Microsoft certified trainer, and we have been conducting these Azure Talk online sessions for a while, and in that continuation, today we are going to talk about hands-on lab on Azure Compute. Uh, this session is made possible because of our one of MVP, Manish, and yes, Rusker, I'm presenting. Anybody can see my screen?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah, can see it. Oh. Yeah, I can see it.
All right, thank you. So maybe Rusker, you will have to rejoin. It's maybe a problem at your end. All right, so I've been working in this industry for 15 years, and then in past, couple of years, I've been extensively working on Azure. And as a part of this community workshop, Azure Talk that we have been, most of you are participating in our Azure Talk chat forum, which is based on Telegram. Uh, we have been Manish, who is one of Microsoft valuable professional, has offered me this opportunity to share a hands-on lab. He has one product which he has developed, and he offers it for the community for free of cost. So as a part of that, we will have hands-on lab today, wherein you would have received email, people who have registered onto the community event website. From there, if you have registered, you would have received your credentials. Rather, you will receive credentials in another 15 minutes. But this is entirely made possible. It's fully sponsored by Manish, and I really want to take time and thank you him for this and allowing us to offer hands-on lab to our participant for our Azure Talk community. So I'll move on. Before we move into hands-on lab, I will quickly cover, very brief and basic, and this topic we have covered in past, but just to make sure to set the context right, I will talk about, what is Azure Compute in terms of Azure Virtual Machine, and what it does, and how it works, what are different components of Azure Virtual Machine. Then, we'll dive into hands-on lab. In the hands-on lab section, we'll talk about creating a Windows VM. So today we'll not talk about, creating a Linux VM, but as a part of this hands-on lab, you will also receive a lab manual, which will another email that you will receive. In that, you will have a hands-on lab manual. That lab manual is catered towards, creating Windows VM. As a part of that Windows VM, you will get an opportunity to work and create VMs on Azure portal, and entire process, end-to-end process, you will be able to perform onto your using your machine. So you will need a laptop to perform this task. Some of the tasks that you will do is, obviously, you will create a Windows VM storage account, which is needed for storing the VMs and network, virtual network, and NSG, and so on. Finally, you will be able to connect to a virtual machine, and then we'll also see how to resize the VM once we have created. How do we resize it, and how do we increase the size and t-shirt size, and make it large and smaller. So before we get into that, so what is virtual machine? Most of us know virtual machine is infrastructure as a service offering from Microsoft. And when you talk about infrastructure as a service, Microsoft offers you as a cloud provider. They will give you compute, they will give you memory, they will give you storage. And when you create a VM, as a part of the VM, you have your compute, which you can, which you get when you provision those VMs. But additionally, those compute also need storage, where operating system will be stored. All your binaries are stored. All your programs are stored. So obviously, we'll see when you try to create a VM, you will see that you will also create a storage account where your VHD will get stored. So you have your compute, you have your memory, and then you also need your operating system image to load onto this VHD. That's how it boots up. In case of today, we'll use Windows operating system. So uh, Microsoft has Microsoft Marketplace. That's where they publish the gallery of these images. Or if you're working in an organization, you can have your own gallery, or you can also upload your own VHD with which you can create it. Uh, guys,
లేదమ్మా
guys, if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute.
ఏది వస్తుందా మనకి ఇది కదా నోస్ బ్లాక్ కదా ఏమన్నా అందుకే బట్టలు.
All right, so I had to put it mute. I'm really sorry for this. So in terms of Azure Virtual Machine, as I said, it's a computing resource. So what I mean computing resource is infrastructure service VM from Microsoft. You get a virtual machine. So any compute services in Azure, it's called virtual machine. That's what we call it, Microsoft. As a part of that virtual machine, you get compute, that is your CPU. So you will be able to select different t-shirt sizes. Those t-shirt sizes will allow you to choose a combination of your CPU, vCPU, which is virtual CPU, and memory. You will be able to select your VHDs. You will be able to select your operating system, the operating system that you want. So once all these VMs are configured, what next? So the next is once these VMs are provisioned in Azure. Now once it is provisioned, you will need some kind of connectivity from your on-prem into this Azure, because your VMs are in Azure. So the way you connect your on-prem, it could be a VPN, or it could be an express route, or it could be a site-to-site VPN, in order to manage and maintain these VMs. You can also, if you don't have, and if you have a dev test lab and you're really not concerned about, an organization is a small company and you want to manage these VMs, you can also manage these VMs over internet by assigning public IP. So when you create these VMs, you also as a part of that, you also assign a networking part, which is the NIC card. And these NIC cards can be assigned a public IP. So what that means? That means you can Sorry guys, if you're not speaking, please put yourself on mute. I request you to put yourself on mute. Okay. All right, thank you. So so in terms of as a part of as a VM, you have your operating system that we talked about. This is your operating system. We talked about the storage. You need the storage. Storage is stored in form of VHDs called virtual hard disks, and you can have multiple VHDs. You have OS disk, you have temporary disk, and then you have data disk. And that comes as a part of storage. And then finally you have networking. In part of networking, you have network interface card, NIC card, which get assigned to all these VMs. And then those NIC card is if you assign public IP address, it can be accessed over internet for management. You can do an RDP. If not, you have not assigned any public IP to that NIC card. In that case, you will need a VPN or express route. Anyway, so you need that network connectivity. So these are three central components of your Azure VM when you provision any VM in Azure. So in terms of operating system, today Microsoft supports Windows and Linux both, and there are different flavors, and the support for Linux is growing. In terms of server, it's an server operating system, but you can have Windows 2012, Windows 2008, Windows 2016 as well. and of late Microsoft has added support to run client operating system also. So like you can run Windows 10 VM as well. Earlier there was no support, but now they also support client VM. Any questions before I move on?
Hey, I have one question, Neeraj.
Sure.
Good morning. This is Bala Vamshi.
Hey.
If you go to the previous slide, right? So if so let's say we provisioned a VM. So when you are connecting to the public domain, like to the enterprise or something, so if you connect it to the VPN, then do we need still express route?
No,
I just want to understand like when express route is required, and I just want to understand that part.
Sure, and we have covered that in a very detail in our networking session, which I have conducted in past, and you can refer those Azure Talks on networking. But I'll just quickly explain you, right? So the connectivity model that today Microsoft offers is you have VPN and Express Route. Even within Express Route, also there are different models, different flavors that Microsoft offers. Within VPN, also you have two flavors. So these are you can have separate. So if you're using VPN, you don't have to use Express Route. But if you're using Express Route, you don't have to use VPN. But if you want both, you can also have both. Now, in which case you will use? So VPN is used if you have good internet connection and you are okay with taking your traffic over encrypted tunnel from your on-prem into Azure. That's when you will use VPN, and it's cheap. It's cheap. If you already have an internet bandwidth and your organization is consuming that, you don't have to provision any extra resources for that. However, that will not guarantee you a good performance because you're now dependent on internet bandwidth and congestion and the performance. And moreover, it is going over internet. It's not a private lease line. So in that case, Microsoft offers you a second connectivity model, which is Express Route, which is a private lease line between your organization from your data center into Azure, directly into Azure, depending on how you connect. And that's a guaranteed performance. So let's say if you take an Express Route of 100 Mbps, that's a private lease line that comes directly from either the network provider that you go, or co-location provider like Equinix or Colt. There are many companies which offer that connectivity, and they have tie-up with Microsoft. You will have 100 Mbps guaranteed throughput, and that line is not shared by anybody. Nobody else can look into the traffic of that, and it's not going over internet. It's your exclusive dedicated line. But again, it's expensive. You have to pay for that lease line. You have to pay for the traffic, and then you will also need certain equipments for that. So but then what you get guaranteed performance, you get guaranteed throughput, and you get a private connection into Azure.
So it depends on how your connection, and then you can go through it express route. Okay. Yeah. Understood. Thanks Neeraj.
No. So let's move on to the next slide. In this slide, this is a very generic slide. And I have borrowed this metrics from Microsoft website. So, and this keeps updating. So you can always refer to Microsoft. Go and refer to the Microsoft website. Microsoft offers VMs in different sizes, and these sizes sometimes we call it t-shirt sizes, SQE, or whatever you call it. So Microsoft has categorized this offering into different types. So you have VMs, which is meant for general purpose, like to run any workload which doesn't require any specialized kind of hardware. In that case, you can select any D series VM basically, or DS series. So in D series also they have different series. You have DSV2, and then version 2. Basically DSV2 is the version 2, and then DV2 also. You also have A series. A series also falls under that. So you have A series. Even in A series, you have standard and basic. These all are general purpose. So you can select those t-shirt sizes, and these are generally optimized for small to medium workloads, and especially for testing and development. So if you want to use that, you can use any of the t-shirt sizes from there. Then you have compute optimize. The compute optimize workloads. So any VM which require it's a CPU intensive workload which requires CPU higher CPU to memory ratio. In that case, you will go with compute optimized. So F series and FS series is where you will use it. And it depends on what kind of workload is, and especially some of the applications are really CPU intensive and it requires a lot of CPU cycles, like in some of the examples of batch processing or application server. In that case, you will select compute optimized. Then you have memory optimized, which is again for application which requires high memory, and so it offers you more memory to core ratio. What that means? That means you have a higher amount of RAM in comparison to the CPU core, and core is it's a virtual CPU. So that's the unit you can say in terms of the compute performance. All right, so you have 1 core, 2 core, 4 core, and so on. Memory optimizes, mainly SQL is a classic case where you need higher memory and throughput. So if you have SQL running on IS box, in that case you will select any of memory optimized series, which is G series, GS and DSV2 and DS series. All these you can select, which gives you more throughput for your memory. So it gives you more bang for money if you're looking for memory optimized workloads. Then you have storage optimized. Some of the requirements where you have very storage intensive workload. In that case, you can go with the storage optimized workload, which is LS series. So you can use that, and you can similarly you have graphics intensive workload. So if you're doing any kind of graphics processing, you can go with NV series or NC series. These are the different t-shirt sizes which Microsoft offers you, and you can use that, right? So I see a question: which type suitable for compute and memory optimized? So memory optimized, as I said, SQL Server, which requires very high CPU. I mean high because it's in memory caching, right? So a lot of memory is a requirement for memory optimized. Compute optimized would be a web server, which requires worker roles, for example, right? So you have web roles and worker roles. So if you're just hosting end user application, and if you've split it, the actual worker role is doing the actual processing, in that case you will select compute optimized. So any processing has to be done, you will select a compute optimized workload, right? So some of the examples, like again, it will come with your experience. You can do that. So you say if we need both, so right, in that case, probably you will have to go with general purpose, which gives you somewhere in between, right? So see where you have, so you can look at different t-shirt sizes and you can see where you are getting, depending on what's your sizing requirement, you can select those series. Now if you have any special requirements, then you can go through these t-shirt sizes and look at what's the optimum core versus memory ratio is needed, so you can select those. So DS promo size is a new series which Microsoft has launched, which is available. I think it's a recent offering, and it's part of the DSV2. So they have changed the processor architecture, and it's more optimized. In fact, Microsoft is also asking, I think, to people to start consuming that. So that's part of the the compute t-shirt sizes that you have. All right. So Sai Karan has a question about the SQL Server. I will, Sai, probably will take that question offline. But you have this. You can post in our, Azure Talk chat forum also. There you will get the answer why we need it, and I will try to answer there. But let's move on to the next slide. I want to focus, and I want to get into hands-on lab so that we are on time and on track. So let's move on. So we have hands-on lab, and hopefully by this time you would have received email with the lab credentials. So anybody can confirm if you have received an email with the lab credentials? Yes, no? Have you received the email, containing your username and password?
Not yet.
Okay, so let me send this details. Just give me a minute. You will also see that you have power operations, which is like switching on, switching off through the portal that you can do. Then finally you have you will be able to resize your virtual machines. You want to change your sizes, that you can do if you want to. And then there is also exercise where you can turn on the monitoring and the diagnostic of your virtual machine, that you can do it. And finally, there is also a lab section for how to set up the backup of your virtual machine. So this is in general, and we expect this to take somewhere between 1 to 2 hours, depending on individual speed. So we will enable your account for next 4 hours. Once it is enabled, you will have access to do this for next 4 hours. So even if you're unable to do it, within 2 hours, you will still have access. So please try to complete that in max to max in 4 hours, and you will be able to follow along with these lab guides. It's very intuitive, and all the steps are mentioned here, and I also pasted that link. Yeah, so Vijay, it will be available for a couple of hours, and then we have added another 2 hours, so most probably you will have it for 4 hours, and you can create those and use it. So this lab has, I mean, if you have 2 monitors, it would be good. You can have one lab manual on the one monitor, and the second side you can follow this, or you can just follow along on this. So that's what I wanted to show. So let me know if anybody of you received the credential. Or so while we are waiting, I will let's take questions. So anybody has any question that they want to discuss about, particularly about the lab, or about compute? Yes, you can do it. So Anand, if you already have an account, let's say for example, if you already have an MSDN subscription, you can do that. In this case, this is for people who don't have MSDN subscription or who don't have access to Azure subscription. We are creating one subscription for them rather than a resource group inside the subscription and assigning them permissions. So if you want to follow along, you can do that. Yes. So if you have MSDN subscription, please, you're more than welcome to go through this lab manual. So that will work. Only thing is you'll have to modify, maybe resource group name will be different, but you can follow along. But for
Hey,
people,
hi Neeraj, this is Harish.
Harish.
Yeah, can we create a Windows 10 client?
Yes, you can create Windows 10 client also, but that's not included in this lab. But as a part of deployment. In fact, I have a Windows 10 VM and I can show you on my portal. So while we are here, so you can see this is my Windows 10 client, and I have this one is deployed, which is running a DS1 v2, 1 VCP 3.5 GB, and it is a Windows 10 VM. So maybe I can, while we are waiting, let's go through a couple of steps that probably you will do to deploy a VM, right? So you will come into the virtual machine, or you can also click on plus, and from there you can deploy. So you can click on the VM icon which you have on the left side, then you click on plus, add sign, and then if you scroll down here, you can search here Windows 10, and when you do that, you will see that there are different versions that you have available, and the one that I have installed is basically I needed Windows 10 with the Visual Studio on it. So you also have that one available. So let's search for Windows 10. So you can have Windows 10 Enterprise, Pro, Enterprise Previews there, and I chose Windows Studio Enterprise 2017 on Windows 10. So you can select this and you can create this. So that's available.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So Sai Karan has a question. In Azure availability set, what is the max number of VMs it will support? So one availability set, you can have multiple VMs, and the concept of availability set is that it gives you fault domain and it gives you update domain. So basically, if you select an availability set, you can have multiple fault domains and multiple update domain. Now, when I say fault domain is physically these VMs will be put on different hypervisors. Obviously underlying infrastructure is your VM, underlying infrastructure is your hypervisor, and if you look at it, I'm showing you the fault domain. So you can have maximum 3 fault domain. Now, how many VMs? I don't know if there is a limit or not, but what will happen is, let's say if I put in 4 VM, the first 3 VM will be on different physical hardware. The fourth one will come back on first hardware, so it will round robin, it will recycle. So essentially, let's say if you have 6 VMs, so 2 VMs will be on one physical hardware, 2 will be another physical hardware, and 2 will be another, so that will be shared. Similarly, on the update domain, you have maximum, you can have 20. So that means Microsoft patches your VMs or underlying infrastructure, and that's where this update domain comes. So they don't update all the VMs or the hypervisor at the same time. So if you select 20 update domains, in that case, all these VMs will be put in across different update domains. So the 21st will be put on the first update domain, and 22nd will be put on the second update domain, 23rd will be put on the third update domain. So it will recycle. But as far as VM is concerned, I don't know any limit. It's max number of VMs. You can have as many as possible.
Anita, you mentioned hardware, whether it is a rack or different physical server.
It's a rack, and it's basically they have it should be the fabric controller, the service fabric controller, that they have switches. So they have a rack, so it will be on separate rack, if I'm not mistaken. That will be the fault domain. It's a power unit. Basically, the fault domain is all the unit which derives power from same source. Okay? So basically, Microsoft will ensure that they put your VM onto different units, and rack. I think rack is where is the common power source. So they will put you in different racks, so that if power goes for that one rack, you still have on the other one. So that's what the fault domain is about. And maximum you can have 3. And you can't change all this. So right now you see, right, I can make these changes at the time of creation. You can make these changes, but once you have created, you cannot make these changes. All right. So I see that people are receiving credentials. Who all have received credentials? So Ruxar has received it. Anybody else? Okay, awesome. So let's go ahead and get started. How many of you can log in? Let's see, I should have also received. Yep, I also received it. Now, let me know who have not received it. So then, I will work with the Manish to, have your credentials sent out. So Rajesh, so people who have registered, okay, so if you have registered on the community website, and if you have not received the credentials, then let me know. If you have not registered, then send me your type in your email address, and I will manually register you in there. Okay, Mohammed, I will register you in. John, you received the credentials? And Lijo? Just hold on, he's calling me. Just hold on. This is the first time we are doing it, and we will have more labs, hands-on sessions, once we go through this. And I really apologize, for some hiccups, but maybe in subsequent sessions we will be better prepared, and we will bring in more hands-on lab for you, including, migrating on-prem into Azure, and subsequently I will keep adding labs, and I'll try to bring in more hands-on experience to our Azure community. So that's my goal, and obviously this is possible because of Manish. So I want to take this time to thank him. Obviously he's not on the call, but uh, it's so nice of him that it's a great gesture, especially on the Azure community part, to sponsor this event. So next time, please, if I, put up such event in for registration, please register. This registration is separate than what you registered on my, portal, which is cloudeasy.com. And so, don't mistake this with this, because it's totally automated system which works in the background. It creates your user ID and password, and that it sends out automatically to you. It's a completely fully end-to-end automated system. So don't confuse with this registration page, which is mainly for our Azure Talk and the sessions that we have. But hands-on lab registration is separate, which you have to register onto the Azure community website. So please, next time, anytime that you have, you should be registering on the Azure community events website, so that you have your credentials and you don't have to wait for any of this problems that we are facing, right? So this is the website that you can go. Next time we will publish it. You can go to this website and register. So whenever we create any event, those events will get published over here, and from here you can basically register. Obviously, in this case, registration is closed because we are past the time, but in future I will set up future events. In fact, I will have a couple of more such hands-on lab sessions, especially for the Azure Compute itself, so that more and more people can take advantage of this. All right, so let's see. I mean, how many of you are able to do the labs?
And here, this is Vijay. I'm able to log in.
Awesome, great. So it means the guys who I could add last minute, they added, but then Lijos, you are unfortunately.
We can see another session for 50.
Not a problem. Neeraj, it's okay.
Okay.
So we can see another session for 15. That is, I think, in Spanish. Is that the?
Yeah, I don't know about that session. Yeah, that probably would be for. people
Okay.
in Latin America. Yeah, I also see this.
Yeah.
Actually,
Okay.
this is strategy for migration to cloud.
Mhm.
They will speak in Spanish, so. But don't worry, we'll have more sessions, and obviously I'll have to work closely. I'll work closely with Manish to set up something similar like this. So as a part of this session, obviously we have to also work on the lab manual. So I'm working to develop a couple of more lab manuals for some advanced level labs on compute, so that we can offer that as free, as a part of this Azure community events.
Thanks, Neeraj.
Oh. So I mean, I will be here on the call. You guys please feel free to continue your lab, and if you have any question, you can chat. You can type into chat, and I will help you with that.
Hi, Neeraj, this is Rajesh. So just wanted to know if possible we can do some same exercise on here, whoever not having credential.
Yes. So who can volunteer to share his screen and show the labs for people who are like
Yeah, that will be great. Yeah.
any volunteers?
Yeah, I can share my screen.
So let
Vijay.
yeah. So let me make you presenter.
Okay.
I made you presenter. Go ahead, share your screen. I will stop presenting. Are you able to present, Vijay?
Just give me a second, please.
Sure.
Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. Yep, loaded. Yep, we can see it.
Okay. So I had already started creating the virtual machine. So, but I can start from the beginning.
It's fine. I mean, maybe you can follow along.
Okay. So initially I was going to check what is the kind of role I have for this lab, following up with the document. So to check the role, what role I have for this lab, check to the resource groups, and this is the resource group by default someone has created, and I'm part of this. I have to create virtual machine in this resource group.
Yeah. So as a part of this provisioning process, what the system is doing is in the background they're creating one resource group, because we have one subscription, and inside that resource group they're granting access to your identity. So everybody will have that access. So everybody will have a separate resource group with different numbers, like UR is 1069, somebody will have 1070, and so on. Yeah.
Right. So I can see my role as a intro custom role.
Yeah. So that's a role that we have defined, for you to provision IaaS VM, infrastructure as a service VM.
Okay. So I'm going to create a new first, because every virtual machine would require some storage account and network account. So I'm going to create one storage account first. And I'm going to use blob storage. So we can use any name, right, Neeraj, here?
Yeah, you can use any name. It has to be lowercase, but it has to be unique inside core.windows.net. So if any other customer has taken that name, then somebody else has taken that name. It says, right, it's already taken.
Okay. Okay. So deployment model I'm going to use is resource manager only, and general purpose standard. This I'm going to use locally redundant storage. Subscription will remain same.
Yep.
And the resource group we have to use existing one.
Yeah, and this subscription that you see is like, because Manish is Microsoft Valuable Professional MVP. As a part of that, Microsoft offers some benefits to MVP, and he has been given an Azure subscription, which gives him around $15,000 of credit per year, or yeah, around $1,500 credit per month. So that's for the subscription we are using. Yep.
Okay, the resource group which I'm going to use the existing one,
Correct.
which was assigned to me, and but the location for that resource group was for South US.
Yeah, so one thing I need to make it clear, guys. So the location of resource group can be anywhere. You don't have to have resources only from that location where resource group is. Resource group could be in US South, but you can have resources from all other regions also. So that's not a problem.
Okay, then I'm going to use US only. While this deployment is in progress, let me open the manual, and till where we have covered, I'm moving to that location.
Yeah, so what Vijay has done is he has created the storage account. Right?
Yeah.
So that's the storage account where we will store the VHD or virtual hard disk of the VM. So now after this, the next step would be to validate that your storage account did exist and it got created. So we will examine the properties.
Yeah. So
go in resource groups.
I can see one storage account here, Cloud VJ Store.
Yeah, so you'll have to create another storage account for diagnostics. So we need one storage account where we will store the VHD. We'll need another storage account where we will store the diagnostic logs and boot diagnostic of our VMs.
Should I create another storage account now?
Yeah, you can create one more.
So Neeraj, this is Rajesh again.
Yep.
This log and other details cannot be on the same VM by creating some other like folders or structure something.
You can have it, but it's always good. It's advisable because you want to keep your VHD on separate storage account exclusively for that. It's always a good practice, and you should do that. Production,
Okay.
You should never have diagnostic and storage VHDs on the same storage account. It's a bad practice.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
I'm going to create another storage account.
Yeah. And just this time we call it diagnostic storage account.
So it should be also in the same location? Or
Yeah.
we can choose another location?
Yes, same location.
Okay. Will we see the deployment is in progress?
Yeah, so once both these storage accounts are created, the next step is to create VNet. But prior to that, you can just look at some of the properties.
I got a question in the VNet one because it's saying to go with the address space 10.100.0.0 16. Oh, Southern is 24. Oh, you just have them different in the picture. All right, it's no big deal. The picture shows 10.2. It's no big deal. All right, I can put it to 100. Got it. Never mind.
Okay.
So now we have two storage accounts. One is for VHDs and one is for diagnostics.
Yep. So, now the next step is to create a VNet.
Yeah.
So, when you create the virtual network, right? So you have address space. So address space, that will be 10.0.0/16, Vijay. So this address space is your top level container of all your IP ranges that will belong to that address, and then on the VNet. You can have multiple address spaces associated to one VNet, and then within that VNet you have subnet. So the subnet will be derived from this address space. So you have /16. That means in this VNet you can have 65,536 hosts. The subnets could be /24. Depending on what's your need, you will subnet it. But in this case, we have to use /24 for the subnet. So, yep. So give the name. You given the name. Use resource group existing one. Yep.
So this address. So this address space would be the top level, and
yes, it is
that we can create.
Yeah, so you can think about this address spaces of your data center. So let's say in physical world, if you have 5 data centers, so every data center will have an address space, and then within that you will have your subnets, or you will have VNets. So subnets, right? So those subnets will further be divided. So that's the top level IP address space.
Okay.
So give the subnet name, yeah, with whatever you want to give, you can give it. And this will be, yes, /24. So that means, now out of this, IP block, this side, it's also called CIDR, classless inter-domain routing block. You're further deriving /24. That means this subnet can have 256 address. And any subnet, 5 IP addresses are reserved by Microsoft. You will not be able to. So though it shows 256, but the actually usable IP addresses are 251. 256.
Can we use some one?
No, you can't. It will error out. So remember, this subnet address is a child, or it's a subset of your VNet's address space. It can't be different than the parent. So the VNet address space is the parent for this subnet.
Okay.
Right. Let's go ahead and create one. It will deploy. And by the way, this storage account that we have provisioned, so there are storage account, unless you store anything, you don't get charged for creation, especially for if it is a general purpose. It's not a premium, standard storage account. If it is premium, then you will pay for provision space, but if it is general, then it's fine. So now next is you will create a network security group.
And refresh and see.
Yeah, let's refresh.
Yep.
You also have refresh button there at the bottom.
Yeah, we can see that now.
Yeah, so now if you click on that, let's click on examine some properties. Let's see what is there. And you click on address space. So what you see over here is the address space that we have assigned. If you want to add another address space, let's say tomorrow, I ran out of IP spaces, for example. That can happen. I'm a heavy consumer. I can add another address space. Like for example, you just go ahead and add 10.1.0.0/16. So this means another 65,000 block you have added, and you can click on save on top. And then you can have another subnet which can make use of 10.1.0.0/16 block, and you can do from there. So that's what I was saying. You can have multiple address spaces into one VNet, but one subnet.
Go ahead. Sorry.
But one subnet cannot have multiple address spaces. Only VNet can have. So let's say if you have created a web subnet, and that subnet was created from 10.0.0.0 CIDR block, and you run out of space and you want to create another one, so you add 10.1.0.0, you can create web 2 subnet, and that can have 10.1.0.0/24.
So will there be any default connectivity between both of these subnets, or we'll have to configure something?
Yeah, so by default, subnets can talk to each other without any problem.
Okay.
Unless you have put in an NSG. If you put in an NSG to restrict the traffic flow, then but otherwise, by default, communication within VNet is unrestricted.
Okay.
All right.
Now I'm going to create security group.
Yeah.
Neeraj, a quick question.
Sure.
You added a network in 10.0 range, right? Can I add another network in a different, say, Class C subnet in the same VNet? Or should it be limited to the 10 octet?
No, you can add, see, for example, if you want to add in another VNet with the
192.168.
Yeah, you can do that. It doesn't have to be any IP that you can use that you want to, but in this case, we were using 10.
Okay, any private IP range I can use.
Yeah, any private IP range, that's correct.
No, so was he asking within the same VNet we can create different subnets?
Yes, yes.
You can add different address. No, sorry, you can add different address space. Yeah, you can add 192 also VNet address space. You can also do that. Okay. It doesn't have to.
Thanks.
Yeah, let's go ahead, create a network security group. It's done. So network security group, just to give an idea, it's a firewall, virtual firewall which Microsoft Azure has to offer you, which can help you, restrict inbound traffic, inbound and outbound both traffic.
So I'm missing something on these rules.
Which rules? Okay.
Yeah, I'm on the next part. I'll wait for them to catch up.
No problem. So yeah, so it's deployed. You can go to, you can click on the NSG Vijay. We'll show it. So when you go in NSG, right, so you have inbound rule and you have outbound rules. So obviously it's a firewall. So firewall will have two sets of rule. One, for incoming traffic and one for outgoing traffic. Now in this case, we'll have to configure inbound rule because we want this system to be accessed over internet via RDP. So 3389 is the port number for RDP. And if you look at the lab, it will tell you to, add a rule for inbound.
I'll just type it in just type it in there. Okay. Because it looks like you're supposed to put the name on it of allow RDP. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So you can add an RDP, and there are pre-populated services which you have. If you don't have any custom services you want, you can always select custom service and you can specify the port range and the priority. So the priority is the lower the number, higher the priority. Okay, so if you have to give any higher priority, in that case you will assign lower priority. And Microsoft's documentation says you give priority in increment of 100. So if you have 100 is one, then you say 200, 300, and so on. So you can put in priority 100, leave it. Yeah.
So is this recommended to enable this port from the internet?
No. For an enterprise, no, you will not. In fact, you will not even allow a public IP address. But since we are doing a lab, if we don't do that, we will not be able to RDP into these VMs.
Okay. Right? So it will have all these ports, whatever is.
No, it's only RDP. Yeah, we are only allowing RDP, not other ports. Only 333.
No, I was just checking whether we have all these.
Oh yeah. You can select depending on what service this server is running on. You can have those rules.
Right.
Okay. So this is your inbound rule, right? And you have given the priority. Now, let's look at. I don't see any inbound. Oh, okay, it's refreshing. Maybe refresh it. Let's see. Yeah. So if you click on that, let's click on that. I click on it once.
So, Neeraj, Rajesh again. So, just wanted to know if we not add this, and how that differ if you not add this and then try to run without.
Yeah. So if you don't add this, you will not be able to RDP to your VM.
Okay, so this is mandatory step to provide the inbound and outbound.
Yeah, if this is mandatory step to provide this inbound if you are coming from internet. If you're not coming from internet and it will come through the private IP of this VM, in that case you don't need this. This is for the public endpoints.
Okay.
Right. So yeah. So now you can look at the properties. So what it has done is the source. It's saying that source is any. So anybody, or you can also restrict it to your, particular IP address if you want to. Let's say you want only allow the RDP from your office public IP. Then you can do so with CIDR block. And then similarly the destination, this is again any to any that you or you vendor specify any CIDR, you can also do that, but we just left it 3389 and all this. And then action is allow, so which means we are allowing it, right? And name is anyway, it's self-explanatory. So
Neeraj, even if we do not allow this RDP port 3389, so still we have the option to save that RDP file and share it with someone. If you use the random port.
No, but that it will not work because remember, even if you share, it will have to come through internet traffic. They will not have VPN connectivity. They will not have express route connectivity like you if you're sitting in your office. All right, so let's close this and move on to the next, wherein we are going to now create a public IP. So right now, when you create a VM, that VM will not have public IP. That means you will not be able to access it over internet. So the next step is where we are going to create a public IP address, and that IP address will get associated to this VM NIC card.
Neeraj, can we associate two NSGs to one VM?
Two NSGs to one VM? No, you can have only one NSG to one NIC card and one NSG to one subnet. We don't assign NSG to VM. We assign NSG to either a NIC card or to a subnet. The VM concept was in ASM, the old portal. But in new portal, which is an ARM portal, you assign the NSG to a NIC card or to a subnet.
Neeraj, when you enable RDP on the VNet level, that is enabled for the entire network, right? Can we do it for a specific VM?
Yeah, you can. That's what I was saying, right? So the NSG that Vijay has created just now, if he assigns that NSG, now that association will also come when we create it. If that NSG is associated to VM NIC card, in that case, only that VM will be accessible via RDP. But if you if you assign that NSG, if you assign that NSG to subnet, then all VMs in that subnet will be accessible.
Someone who is not speaking need to put the phone on mute. Okay.
I can remember.
What?
Penny inside.
Okay.
How can we get it out?
Give him. This guy do.
Okay.
This guy.
Any problem, Vijay?
Still CloudMaster.
We tried to get it.
Vijay? No, we have some background noise, so I'm not able to hear anything.
Yeah, guys, if you're not, please, thank you. Yeah. So let's go ahead and give it a name, the public IP name. Any name that you want to keep.
So, Neeraj, I want to add one point here regarding NSG. So the question was, we can add the one NSG to NIC level and subnet level. Yes, we can add, but it is not like we can add two NSG to a single NIC or two NSG on a subnet level.
Correct.
But yes, one NSG can assign to a subnet, and for the same VM, we can assign in the NIC level. And one NSG can apply to the multiple resources. Yes, but multiple NSGs cannot be assigned to a single resource. Like you want to assign two NIC to a single subnet, it is not possible, and two NSG with the single NIC, it is not possible. But it is possible that one NSG can assign to a NIC and to the subnet level.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can reuse your NSG. So let's say if I defined one NSG and I have 10 subnets, I can reuse the same NSG and apply to all 10 subnets or multiple NIC cards. But vice versa, wherein I have 10 NSG and I want to apply all 10 NSG to single subnet or single NIC card, that's not doable. And that's what, Shakti explained just now.
Okay.
All right. So what Vijay is doing, he's creating a public IP address, and there are method allocation. If you look at it, you have IP address assignment, dynamic and static. So dynamic is, it's assigned by DSCP. Microsoft has DSCP infrastructure, and it costs you less money, as opposed to static. If you assign it in that IP address doesn't change if your VM restarts. In case of dynamic, if your VM restarts, that public IP will keep changing. And that's for that what Microsoft has done. There is something called DNS name level. If you look at the bottom, it says, right? So what it does is, so for example, if I take a dynamic and if I reboot my VM, the public IP of that VM will change. Again, I have to log in onto portal and get the public IP address and try to RDP. So in order to avoid that, if you specify a DNS name level, what it will do, it will create a DNS record for that public IP, and Microsoft will register that. So every time there is a reboot and public IP address has changed, Microsoft will update this record. So instead of referring this VM with using this public IP address, you can refer that VM, or you can resolve that VM, or you can RDP that VM using this DNS name level. So let's go ahead and put it one, though it's not in the lab manual, but let's go ahead and put it one. And in lab manual wanted you to create a static one, but we'll keep it dynamic so that I can demonstrate you the DNS name level. So now Vijay is done with creating a public IP address. So once that is done, he can see all his resources that's deployed. The next step would be to create the virtual machine. All right, so let's go ahead and create a VM.
So I was looking for Windows 2012.
Yeah, so you will get that. First you put in the name. Yeah.
It's showing only 2016.
No. So you search for it. Just hold on. Go back.
Oh, okay.
Search, and on the top it says, or you can also click on see all on the right side.
Okay.
Yeah. Here you can see, and if you click on Windows Server, it will show you all those. Yeah.
So still we are using classic model for some features?
Yeah, couple of, but I think almost all features are migrated. 99% features are migrated to ARM port. Yeah, so let's give to what Vijay is doing. He has given a name and then the VM disk type. So if you expand that, Vijay, so it can show that VM disk type. VM disk type. Yeah. No. The drop down on the right side. Yeah, this one. Yeah, the second one. Yeah. So if you look at it, there are two VMs that you can disk type select. One is HDD, which is magnetic disk based, and another one is SSD, which is solid state disk. So SSD is for higher performing throughput that you require from your storage, and in that case you'll select SSD, and some classic cases SQL you will use SSD. It's costly, it's expensive, but for this lab purpose we will use HDD. Let's go ahead and select HDD. Yeah. Username is your local user that will get created on this VM using which you will log in. So remember your username and password. Password you have to put in complex one. Yeah. And yep. So this offer that you see, this is for the if you have no, don't say yes.
No, I was just checking whether it's asking for the license key or something.
Okay. Yeah. So this is for if you have Windows Assurance and Microsoft agreement with that. In that case, you can bring your own license, and that will help you save. So that's as a part of agreement, I think that you can do. But anyway, in this case, we don't have. So let's select no. Now this is where you will select the size. Right, so let's select the right size, which Manish has pointed, because we have limited credit and he is offering his subscription. So let's look at what size he said. Let's select A1. Yeah, the size is A1.
Did he mention this?
Yeah, it's there. Yeah. So let's go back and click on View All. Or the top you had View All.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's come to the bottom. It will be in the bottom. Yeah, it is there, A1.
A1 basic?
No, standard. So basic and standard. If you look at, so let's spend some time here on looking at it. See, if you look at the basic, scroll down a little bit in the basic.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you look at the basic, scroll a little bit up so that we have basic and standard at one screen. A little bit up. Yep, stop here. So if you look at the difference between standard and basic, in addition to your vCPU, just right now let's ignore the vCPU section. If you look at the features that you see, the difference is the IOPS. If you look at the basic is IOPS, IOPS is input output processing. That is basically for disk IOPS we are talking about. Now that disk IOPS is 300 for basic. And that IOPS is the measure of how what's the throughput of your disk access. In case of standard, the throughput is 500 IOPS per disk. That's one difference. That's the difference between basic and standard. The second difference is that in case of standard, it supports load balancing. So if you, let's say, want to use internal load balancer or external load balancer, you will use standard because basic doesn't support. And moreover, in production environment, neither standard nor basic is recommended. You should use D series or any other series. But in case you have requirement, you will not use basic for any production workload. It's only for dev and dev test. You will use standard and upward. So let's go ahead and select A1 and see the features.
So Neeraj, when it's mentioned 16 data disk, is there any limit of the size of the limit?
Yeah, so this is the limit is shown there. Depending on what kind of t-shirt size you select, you will see those limits. So for example, A10 allows you 16 data disks. If you go up, let's go up into A1.
So each disk will be limited for 2 terabyte or something?
4 terabyte.
4 terabyte.
So yeah, just hold on. So A1, if you look at it, what it says, you get 1 vCPU, 1.75 GB of RAM, and 2 data disks. That means maximum you can have 2 data disks. If you need more, then you have to upgrade to A2, which will give you 4 data disks, and so on. So these are the t-shirt sizes. And plus you get 500 IOPS as opposed to 300 IOPS of basic. And since you have 2 disks, so 2 into 500 IOPS. And it also supports load balancing. But it's HDD based, hard disk, magnetic disk based. So let's go ahead and select A1.
So if I need more than 500 IOPS?
So if you need more than, that's a very good question. If you need more than 500 IOPS, in that case, you will select premium based, which is STD based VM that will give you higher throughput. If you go up, let's look at the D series. Yeah, just hold on here. So D14, go up a little bit more.
40,000, 48,000.
So here you can say, like, this D14, all this you will get max IOPS. So depending on what, so all these are SSD based. So whenever you go for SSD based, you get higher throughputs and higher IOPS. Right? So let's select A1.
So Neeraj, for example, the listed disk is not here actually. So, but my requirement is for 5. So in that case, I supposed to go to the Microsoft.
No, you will. There is no custom. Microsoft will not offer you custom. You have to select anything in between. So you will select something which will offer you 8 disk, and you use 5. 3 will be unused for you. So for example, you will use A4MV2. Custom is not offered. Neither AWS nor Azure offers you custom. But I heard that Google does offer custom options, but I haven't really looked into that.
So are you saying once I select this disk and tomorrow if I need more RAM or more CPU, I'll have to change the virtual machine size?
Yeah, you can change it. Yeah, that's also part of this exercise.
Okay.
So let's go ahead and select A1 standard. Select and click on select on the bottom.
Yeah, I clicked on.
Okay. So this is where the storage, there are two kinds of storage, managed and unmanaged. So we'll go with the unmanaged. And you say select no, use manage, say no. And you specify storage account. This will be your VM storage account. Yeah, good. Specify the virtual network and the subnet. Yep, this is the subnet. Then the public IP, assign the public IP that we have created. I think it's already taken. And the security group, click on existing. It is
yeah. So if you select a managed disk, say yes, so what will happen in that case?
If you select manage disk, then you will not be able to use your storage account. Microsoft will manage it for you, and you are free of any storage account management activity, and you don't have the same limit which storage account has, like you can have 200 storage account, and every storage account has size limit. You will not be bound about that. Manage this means Microsoft will manage everything in the background for you, and you don't have to worry about anything at all.
And that will be separate chargeable?
Yeah, it's I think twice expensive than the unmanaged disk. Plus also managed disk gives you 5 nines high availability, as opposed to unmanaged disk, which gives you 4 nines high availability. So for critical production workload, you would start using managed disk, so that you have the highest availability.
So managed disk would be kind of outsourcing to Microsoft to manage our storage?
Correct. Microsoft in the background will do every provisioning, make sure the disk is put in the right stamp and it doesn't fail. Everything will take care of Microsoft, and you just consume it. That's it.
Okay.
All right. So NSG, yeah, you have selected that. So extension, we don't want to put in any extension, but you have certain extensions which you can do it. But anyway. Then monitoring, yes, leave it enabled. Guest OS diagnostic, click on enabled.
So this is configure your virtual machine to automatically shut down daily.
Yeah, so if you really want to shut it down, so right now Microsoft is only offering shutdown, not restart. So it will shut down and then you have to manually restart. So there are ways to automatically shut down and restart apart from this. But this is.
So is this for the beneficial for the development environment?
Yes, this is for the development environment. Yep, and then guest OS diagnostic, turn it on, enabled.
If we shut down the VM, so there is no charge for that. Is that correct?
Yeah, so there are two ways to shut down the VM. If you shut down the VM inside of the operating system, that is, you have done RDP and from there start menu and shut down. If you do that, that shutdown will still cost you money. But if you do the shutdown through the portal, you go and stop, not shut down, stop. Stop and shut down are different. So if you through the portal, if you stop it, then you don't incur any charges.
So in this way, it's going to gracefully shut down automatically?
No, I don't think it will shut down from operating system, but it will shut down from the portal. So it will set you in the deallocated state so that you don't get charged.
But if we select this, so in what cases we should select? Because if it's going to shut down, it's deallocate. Next day we need the same virtual machine.
Yeah, the virtual machine will still be there. You have to restart it. Your public IP will change. But your VM and this data will persist. Nothing will go wrong with it.
But that will still be chargeable.
No, it's not chargeable.
Okay.
If you shut it down from inside the operating system, then it is chargeable. But if you shut it down, if you stop it from the portal, it's not chargeable.
So Neeraj, what basically the use of this auto shutdown is removing any temporary things, or what basically features for this auto shutdown?
So auto shutdown feature is, let's say you have a dev environment and you know that my users will only work from 9 to 6. After that they go home and they don't work. And you will not, if you keep running, you pay for 24 hours as opposed to 9 to 6, 10 hours. So, you know, you will only, after 10 hours, you'll say, okay, 6 is when my team leaves the office. So let it run up to 7 o'clock. After that, stop it. So, you know, you will not incur charges from 7, so another 12 hours. So you will save money on that.
Okay.
That's subject. Okay, let's go ahead and guess OS diagnostic, say enable. And you can specify your diagnostic storage account which you have created, yeah, which it has taken. No, select the diagnostic, yep, and say okay. And this will give you the summary information what we have done. So we have selected A1 and your storage account, your subnets, your IP, and as I said earlier, a VNet, a VM cannot be deployed without a VNet. So first you need to have a VNet, you need to have subnet inside that, because VM lives inside of subnet and subnet lives inside of VNet. So you have to create VNet, you have to create subnet, and then you create your VM and storage account and the IP addresses, all that we have created. So go ahead and click on purchase.
Neeraj.
Yeah.
Whenever you create storage account and container, it will store in page blob, right?
That's a very good question. So yeah, so like the storage account offers you different kind of features. So maybe while it is deploying, Vijay, why don't we go ahead and examine the property of storage account? Let's come to the portal and then I'll explain. So if you click on the storage account, any VM storage account basically. Yeah, this one. So if you come to this, like there are two kind of storage account that you can create. One is general purpose storage account and one is blob storage account. So if you look at, this is a general purpose storage account which is meant for VMs, and if you want to consume file is another Azure file services which is SMB protocol accessible, or table which is a NoSQL basis, or queue which is for a disconnected application. In the blob, you can store the blob is basically meant for storing unstructured data. Blob, there are three kind of blobs that you can store. And you can see that inside the blob you have container called VHD, that is where VHD is stored. If you click on that, so what you will see is this VHD file that you see, and you see the type. Can you see the type on the right side? This is called page blob. So there are three kind of blobs that you have. One is page blob, one is block blob, one is append blob. Page blob is for VHD, and it's highly optimized for frequent read-write access. And as you know, VHD is very active. The block blob is optimized for it is not for frequent read and access. It's mainly for storage images, which is not
Archiving.
Yeah, for archiving. So you have block blob. And then the third one is append blob, when you want to add something that is mainly for logs and logging purpose that you use append blob. So the VHD has to be page blob, And this is one of the cases. Sometime, if you have your own VHD, you're bringing it from on-prem into Azure. People do a mistake when they upload it. You can also upload. You see, there is an option to upload. People select block blob for that VHD, and when they try to create a VM from that VHD, it will not work.
So this number is randomly created. Can we change the number or?
Yeah, we could have changed the name itself. But now and also you see the lease status, you see on the right side, it says lease status leased. That means it's locked. It's Microsoft has put in that lock because your VM will access that, so that you don't have to. And in case you want to break the lease sometime, if you make a copy and that will still have a lease, so you have to break the lease to make use of that VHD.
Neeraj.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I have allocated 10 disks to one VM. Okay, now I want to delete one disk in the VM level.
Yeah, you can do that.
So how can we recognize the disk here? The portal, which one?
On the portal, you will have to look at the storage account. So you should remember the storage account where you have stored your data disk.
Okay, so I have recognized my storage account and container.
Yeah, so there you will have your storage account, your VHD name. So when you've added data disk, at that point of time, you would have given a name for that data disk. So you have to remember storage account name or a data disk name, both.
But in VM level, it will recognize as a E drive or F drive like that, right?
Correct. So
how can we compare?
Okay, so maybe I can show you. So let this VM get provisioned. It's just still deployment. So when you go to the VM properties and when you go to the disk, it will show you the disks. And you see the disk name. That disk name is what the VHD file name. So that's the place you should be looking for the VHD name.
Okay.
So it will take some time. So I don't know if I answered your question about the blob, page blob, block blob, and append blob.
And one more thing, how can we create a block and append blobs? Can we create that?
Yeah, you can use Microsoft has a tool called Storage Explorer. Using that, you can do that. And when you upload it, it will ask you what kind of blob it is. Is it a page blob, or it is a append blob, or is a block blob? So Storage Explorer. Maybe Vijay, while we are waiting for it, you can do a Google search or for Storage Explorer.
I think I had already downloaded.
Oh, you already have it? Good. Then let's see if we can fire it up, and we can show it.
I moved somewhere. Maybe I'll have to search rather.
So this is a tool from Microsoft which you can download to manipulate it, or you can also use PowerShell script or easy copy. It's also there to copy it. So when you upload through the Storage Explorer, it will ask you what kind of blob it is. This is a GUI format. The same goes for PowerShell. Can specify. Let's see what's the status of our deployment while it's still being installed.
Still deploying.
Okay, good. I mean, we received 50 plus registration, but we have only 20 joinees. So maybe next time I will open more slots, assuming that we'll have less people. Otherwise, probably we could have accommodated more users. So let's see if the Azure Storage Explorer got installed.
So near like we had this AWS meet recently. Do we get these kind of meets for Azure as well?
What?
New York or NJ? We recently had the AWS meet.
Yes, they do have meet in New York also. So Ruksar has posted a very good event link which is happening. It's coding, but it's very good, and it's the VP of Microsoft. I forgot his name. He's doing an event in New York. So yes, there are events. In fact, there is also a certification event which is going to take place on 26th or 27th and 28th of September in New York, and I'm one of the speaker in that event.
Can we get that link shared by someone?
Sure, I can forward that. Hold on. And you can register there, and depending on how many seats there will, it fills up very quickly. But let me get you the link. So that's Azure certification jumpstart for 7534, which is Azure architecture, and it's a 2-day workshop, and there will be more than 10 speakers, including myself, and I will be taking session on Azure storage and data access strategy. All right, good. So now you can look at. Did you log in? Can you click on the?
No, it's automatically logged in with my old credentials.
Okay, so click on your So click on your user icon, and you can say, I don't know, if you want to add, you can add another account. Click on that, and yes, you say sign in.
So I'll have to use the same sign-in which I got for this session.
Yeah, so that you can see all your blob storage there.
Neeraj, and one more thing is, how can we provide conditional access?
What do you mean by conditional access?
I mean shared access signature.
Conditional access and shared access signature are two entirely different terminologies. Conditional access is for Azure AD. I got confused. Yeah, you can do that. So you can create access. Two ways to do it. You can either share the key, or you can also create a shared access signature, and that signature will control what permissions that that has. You can do that from the portal also, and you can also do the same from the Azure Storage Explorer also, both options. Okay, here is the link for this event. So I just pasted the link. So this is Azure Certification Jumpstart, and you can register if you want to. And this is in New York, and this is 2-day session, September 27 and 28. So I'm the speaker for 27th, of which, if you scroll down, yep, just yep. So.
Oh, it's next to my office. I'm in 7 Times Square, and it's in 11. Good.
Yeah.
So we have to get the option to register. Oh shit! Online registration is no longer available.
Yeah, so it looks like it's over. But anyway, this was the session. But this keeps happening, so I can get you those results. I can register. You can also register yourself, and I can forward this. I will keep sharing these kind of events in my Azure Talk sessions as well. So keep an eye. So this was for the jumpstart, but there is another one which Ruxar has shared in his chat. So you can search that in his chat, and that is for the coding. But that's also very interesting.
But it's showing please contact registration assistant via the email link below in order to get.
Yeah. So I mean, they have closed it right now.
More than 2 technical people do these events. Okay.
All right. So let's come back to this storage. Then if you look at, let's say apply, and look at your storage, vStorage, yep, and blob container, VHD. It's leased. You can see that. Now, if you click on upload on the, yep, and you say upload file. And you see here is here what you see the option block blob, page blob, append blob. So any kind of that you want. And there is a checkbox which says upload VHD, VHDX as a page blob. So even if you have selected block blob, and if it's a VHD file, and that option is selected, it will convert. I mean, it will upload it as a page blob. So this is where you get these options. Okay.
So even if I upload VHD file rather VHDX, will it recognize in the system, or it will automatically convert it?
Yeah, it will convert.
Okay.
It will convert in page blob if you have this option selected.
No, so this my Azure recognize VHD file or VHDX?
It will recognize both the files. So it doesn't have any problem.
Okay.
Let's cancel it out. Come back to the portal. Let's complete the lab. So finally, let's see if the VM got created. Now we have to connect to this VM. All right. So how do you connect? You will have to download an RDP file that Microsoft gives you. And if you click on connect, yep, it opens it. So you can save that RDP file. And let's try to look into inside what is there. Instead of just directly double clicking it, you just right click and edit that file. I want to show you what is going on in the background. So right click, edit. Edit. And if you look at closely, what you see is the computer name. You see the public IP address, so 52.170.34.40 :3389. And we can validate that public IP address. So if you come into the NIC card property, let's look at the NIC card of this VM. Scroll, yep, networking. So you can see it says right attached network interface, and you can see the public IP. So that's the public IP we are using to connect to this VM. Now, since it is a dynamic, if you say stop from the portal, it will change the public IP address. So let's go ahead and click on overview. Overview. Yeah. So here you see the stop, right? So if you do it to stop from here, then only you will save money. But if you do it from the operating system inside, then but if you do stop from here, the downside is your public IP will change. Now again, you will have to download the console. So in order to fix that, what we do is, you remember we put in a DNS level. You see on the bottom here it is. We will copy this and we'll replace the IP with this one. So that will fix our problem. So let's go back to the console, the RDP console, and change the IP address which you have with replace it with the name. And you don't need 3389. If you want, you can put it :3389, which is the port that we are using to connect on RDP, :3389. Yeah. And you say save. Click on save so that it saves your Yeah. So this way what will happen is every time you put it in stop and deallocated state, you don't have to download either the RDP file or you don't have to edit it and put in the new public IP address. So it's very important, this DNS domain level name. If you are manipulating your VMs, or you're trying to access that VM through public IP. If not, then it's fine. Let's go ahead and connect.
Neeraj, for this also we can reserve the public IP.
Yes, you can static public IP addresses.
Yes.
Yeah. So that will cost you money, right? So that gets you, and plus you can have only certain number of public IPs, not unlimited
Yes.
number of reserved public. I don't know how many it is. 4?
No, it's 5 free, but after this we need to pay, and it is per subscription it's 20, but after this we need to raise a request to Microsoft to increase.
Yeah. So like, obviously 20 is too less, right? If you really need a good amount of public IP address. So in that case, probably for VMs, if you use this name, then a DNS domain level name, then it's easier for you. And you don't have to pay and good. So now this VM is up and running. Now what I was referring to, so now we are inside the VM, and from here if you do, so let's go ahead and stop it from here.
Shutdown?
Yeah. I don't know, your start button is not there. Yeah. No, so just hold on, don't shut down. I'm just trying to say. So this is what I was trying to. If you do a shutdown from here, click on Windows key. You have Windows key on your laptop. It should open up your. Yeah. So if you shut down from here, and click on your icon, Vijay. Click on your Vijay. Your name on top. Yeah. Why it's saying only log out? I don't know.
You want to see shutdown?
No, it's okay. So what I'm trying to say is, like, if you do it from here, the shutdown from here, that's when the option, you will still incur the charges if you do a shutdown from operating system. But if you do shutdown or stop from the portal, that's when you start saving the money.
So here we are getting the option for power shutdown or what?
Yeah, okay. All right, so don't do it. But that's what I was trying to explain. So now this is how you have connected, right? And we are able to connect it. Why? Because our NSG is allowing this port 3389. If we drop that rule, you will not be able to connect it. All right. So let's move on. Before we move on, any question on this portion of lab?
So for this in networking, if I go to the NSG, where we can disable this. So I'll have to disable from the NSG.
Yeah. So you see.
Classic subnet.
Yeah. So if you look at RDP, right? So if you look at the, let's go to the network card, NIC card that you see on the top. You have Cloud VM NGS 1618. Yep. Click on that, and we will see that our NSG is associated to this NIC card. If we disassociate this, click on Network Security Group on the left side. And you can see that the cloud VM NSG that we created is associated. If we disassociate this, that's when you won't be able to do it. So we can do that. So if you don't delete this, come into the association. So there should be somewhere. Come back to the NIC card properties. I want to see the NIC card properties. Yeah, so Ruxar pasted that code first even. Thank you, Ruxar. Yeah, so
let me just, okay, now we can go back.
Yeah, so if you look at the property, so this is the NIC card. If you come to Network Security Group, and click on Edit. Just go back. Yeah, click on Edit, and this is the one, right? So just click on that and say none. I want to show you this. Your connection will break. Say none. Select none, and save. Now, let's close this guy and try to RDP. It is still updating in the background. Yeah, saved. Now close this guy. The console, RDP console, and try to RDP now.
I can access.
Let's see if it works. So I think you'll have to restart the VM if I'm not mistaken. Let's see where this IP is start. Not from here, but so this is strange. Yeah. So go to the portal.
Hey Neeraj.
Yeah.
By default, the default RDP rules is enabled since we are using the public IP, right?
Oh yes, you're right.
No, but still, I'm using port 3389, so that should be disabled. In this, if I say
No, that's correct. There was an article, and I'm sorry, I forgot it. By default, 3389 is enabled, even if you don't have any NSG rules. That's correct. So you'll have to disable it, and that's why you're able to. All right, so let's move on to the next. Let's go back and reassociate the NSG so that we don't screw up. Click on the VM.
VM. Okay.
Yeah. And go to the network. So Bhusan has a question. So if the data is moved into VM, it will be page blob if you are referring to it. Yeah, that's correct. So if pass SQL, we don't have control. It's Microsoft manages it, and obviously Microsoft will also use page blob because Azure SQL is at the end of the day, it's a SQL Server form. I don't know if it's running on a VM or they have a physical. It's a physical servers. Yeah, let's go ahead and associate. All right, so now what next? The next is so connection is done. So the next one should be the backup. Let's see. Oh no, managing the virtual machine where we'll resize the virtual machine. So let's try to resize the virtual machine. Go to the properties of the VM on the portal. And from A2 size, from A1 size, click on size. So we have done the Dave, we have done the association of NSG, Network Security Group, as I said. Yeah, Deva. As I said, the NSG can be associated at NIC level or can be subnet level. So right now what we did is we disassociated the NSG from NIC card of the VM, and then we again associated it back. That's what we have done. So if let's say if you have one NSG which needed to be applied on multiple VMs, you create one NSG at one time and then assign it to multiple NIC cards. All right, so select D1 V2 standard. Do you see D1 V2 standard? Yeah, if you come down. Oh, you're right. Click on show all. Did you click on show all? Go.
I think it's all we have.
Okay, so I see V2. Come down.
A1 V2 I can see.
Okay, let's go ahead and select A1 V2, and we want to resize, right? So we want to see how things work. Yep. So we can select that. Now so what it will do in the background, it will resize the VM for you, and
That require reboot?
Yes, it will reboot the VM for you. It should disconnect you. It will. What is the difference between restart and reimage? Ruksar, can you explain? I didn't get your question.
So in cloud services, web role, worker role, there is an option to restart and reimage. So sometime we reimage the VMs or sometimes we restart it. So I'm not yet clear about those restart and reimage.
Okay, so this you're referring in context of cloud services for ASM model, right?
Correct.
I don't have any idea the difference between maybe Shakti, anybody, if you know about it, or maybe I can get back to you about the difference between those. So reimage should be reinstallation, right? Usually reimage means reinstallation. If I'm not
But for example, some agent I already installed on some exe or some services. If I restart, so I'm assuming my installation is there. But if I do the reimage,
you will lose those. You will lose those. You'll have to reinstall those exe and agents. Yeah, that's what even my understanding is. Reimage is your reinstall.
Okay.
All right, so you saw, right, once you resize, it rebooted the machine and you lost the connection, right, Vijay? Through RDP?
Yes, I lost the connection for the RDP, but it's automatically came up.
Yeah, so now you can log in. So that's how you resize. So remember, whenever you're resizing, so there are two kind of scaling that in the past we talked about. We talked about scaling up and scaling out. Scaling up is what we have done. So you increase your VM size from 1 vCPU to 2 to 4 to 8, and always scale up requires a downtime, which is a very bad strategy when you're developing a solution for production environment. So always build a solution which goes for scale out, wherein you have multiple instances running to take the load, and it doesn't require downtime.
Okay, so I can see now it's RAM is 2 GB.
Yep. Good. So now next, let's go ahead and look at the monitoring and boot diagnostic of the VM. So let's come back to the portal, and if you click on monitoring, come down, under the monitoring sections, you have metrics. So if you click on metrics, it will show you all the available metrics for your VM. So some of the metrics are your CPU count, disk read, disk write. So these are performance monitors. I don't know how many of you, whoever comes from Windows world, the server world, and they have worked with servers and done a lot of work with performance monitoring of Windows Server, you will know these are counters. These are called performance counters, which basically indicates the performance and the health of your system. So these are the counters that you have available, and you can look at it. So maybe you can look at the page read if you want to look at disk read. Let's look at the disk read. If you go up, average disk read time, disk read queue, average disk read queue. So any or maybe on CPU utilization, anything that you want to select. So it will show you as a graph. Yeah. So from here you can monitor the performance. So you can select disk read and write bytes. That's also a good way to look at it. How much we are writing into disk. So this lab asks you to click on disk read and write bytes.
Where is it? You see?
In the top, Go up. Up. Yeah, disk read and write. Yep. right? And
this is for host.
yeah.
No, I cannot select this. This is grayed out.
Oh, okay.
I can only use for the guest.
Okay. Yeah. So look at the guest read write. Yeah. Let's disk read time and write time. Yeah. You can't do it for host. That's correct.
You see the free space as well.
Yeah. So those are utilization that you can see, and you can also select network in and out. So that will tell you what's the network traffic coming in, coming out. So that's how, and you can also look at the percentage CPU utilization if you really want to memory utilization. Okay, so this is how you look at the performance of your your VM. Now there is something called on the left side alert rules. You can also set your alerts wherein if it exists certain threshold. So let's say you say if my CPU utilization is more than 80%, please trigger an alert and send me an email. You can set that. So there is you can follow the steps. So you can click on add metric alert and give it a name CPU 80 alert, so which means 80% is what is my threshold. Description, you can say this is for high CPU utilization. Yep, and alert on metrics, we want to monitor or alert on the metrics. Subscription, anyway, that will be same. Resource group will be same. You can specify the resource will be your VM. Yeah, processor time. Yeah. And you can say greater than, and you can say 80%. And this is the time you specify for how long this will be like this before you. So you can say for 5 minutes, and you can specify the email address. So if you have your own email address, it can send that notification to the owner or the administrator. Or if you want to call a webhook is an automated way to call any third-party applications. You can do that, or you can also take an action wherein it can run an automation runbook. So that runbook can be hosted in Azure automation. So that runbook could be restart the VM or start up another instance, or there could be many actions that you can depending on what you want to take.
So can we integrate with any kind of ITSM tool to throw an alert and generate a ticket?
Yeah, so you will use a webhook. So you see webhook is there. So ITSM and ServiceNow offers a webhook to call their interface automatically to create a ticket. So they will expose an HTTPS endpoint for you to create a ticket, and you will post that webhook here.
Okay.
Okay, so in this case, what you can do is you can specify your email address if you want to. Your personal email address you can specify, or anything that you want. Yep. So this is how you create the alert, and this will generate. If there is an alert, it will generate it.
Okay.
Okay, and then the next lab is we download a CPU stress file on this, and we put in stress, and it will generate a alert for you. So let's make sure that we have captured the right connect. I mean the what do you call it? The performance counter. So let's click on the percent. Did we click percentage CPU. Let's click on this rule once again and click edit on the right side. Yeah, so it should be not percentage processor time, but it should be what it is. Uh, uh, percentage CPU. So let's go. It should be metric should be percentage CPU. Percentage CPU. Do you have something as percentage CPU?
It is first one on the top.
Yeah, first one. Yep, percentage CPU. And save it. Now follow the lab manual. It has a link and you can download that CPU stress file, which will put in a stress. But we'll have to wait for 5 minutes, right? This is stress. That's what the threshold we set.
Yeah, that was the minimum.
That's the maximum that okay. So this is going to generate a stress on the CPU and then it will trigger it. Then finally, after this, this will generate CPU and then it should trigger the alert for you.
Did it start or?
Okay, let's see. CPU threshold generator is greater than 50. You have to start, right? So, yep, CPU utilization. Process priority. So it says activities should be set to busy. Set this activity to busy. No, not this one. This thread 2. Not priority, but the activity level. Busy.
All four?
So now it should go. No, don't all four. Otherwise it will
crash.
Yeah. So let's leave this. So 94% is there. Now this should trigger the percentage. But we'll have to wait for 5 minutes. All right, so while it is running, if you want to take a break, and we can take a break, I'll also take a break and come back in 5 minutes.
So what is left for this?
So after this, you will see boot diagnostics. You can go in boot diagnostic right now. You can also look at the boot diagnostic. Click on diagnostic, boot diagnostic. And here you can see the snapshot at the time of the boot. So this was the snapshot that was taken. So it takes the snapshot of your VM basically at the time of the run. And it refreshes it. So sometime, you're unable to start it up. In that case, you will use that.
So even if it's giving blue screen of BSOD, it will capture that screenshot?
Yeah.
And the reset password is for the administrator account, which I created during build?
Yes.
Okay.
So this will basically
deploy?
Redeploy it will, again deploy it with the same template, same format. So somebody wants to have access to the recorded session. Yes, on the core, yes, I will upload the recorded sessions, certainly, onto my YouTube and share the. I hope all of you are member of AzureTalk community group. If you're not, please do join that group. It's one of the most active group, and we answer a lot of questions there. We have a lot of experts, who answer questions, so you can join that group. All right, so after this, the backup is the thing which is left. So yeah, we can quickly, if you want to do that, we can do that quickly, the backup thing, while we're waiting for this stress. And this is a request. So once you are done with the backup, please delete the backup vault, because the automated deletion doesn't work even if you don't delete the backup vault. So once you have done with the backup task, please remove the backup vault so that we can your deprovision it resource after 2 hours. So right now, what Vijay is doing is he's trying to create a backup vault first. Trying to backup. So you go into the properties of your VM, right? And in the VM you have backup. You click on that, and then you specify your backup policy. So as a part of that backup, backup is stored in recovery services vault, RSV, which is recovery services vault, and that's when that's where all your backup will get stored. So you specify the name, yep, and then you specify your backup policy. You can specify a new policy, and you give the name. And backup frequency, you can set how frequently you want to backup. You want to backup daily, you want to backup weekly, depending on whatever. And then you can specify your time. So usually it is UTC, but you can specify your Eastern, any time zone that you are in, and then you can specify that. And then you have retention. For how long you want to retain? Do you want to retain for 180 days or 30 days? It's up to you. So whatever is configurable, you can keep that. It's the same thing for the weekly backup. You want to keep 1 weekly backup, and then 1 monthly backup, and 1 yearly backup. Again, you can do that. So it's setting for all, as opposed to the daily one. So we are configuring the daily one. So we'll select that, and on the bottom you have enable backup. So once you do that, this will enable the backup for you.
I have configured it for after just for 2 minutes. It should start taking backup.
Yes, it will.
Failed. It failed.
API that might have. Let's see what error says. API that might help. At least one resource deployment operation failed. Please list deployment operation for details. Okay, let's click on the details. Can you scroll it down? Click on the details. Subscription is not registered to use namespace. Okay, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's some problem, but that's how you do it.
And if you have to restore it, then?
If you have to restore it, you can restore it from the recovery services vault. You can do that.
So can we restore file level as well, or it will be full?
This is at the VM level, but I think it also nowadays the recovery services also is supporting file level also.
Yeah, you can do the file level. Only the difference is you have to do it by for the files that you want to retrieve. This has to be associated with another set of machines. If you want to restore the files from a Windows 2012 server, then that.
Sorry, Ranjit, you cut off your voices.
Are you able to hear me right now?
It's very low. Still very low.
How about now?
Yeah,
Yeah,
better.
better.
Okay. So what you need to do, if you're using Server 2012 and want to get some files, you restore the disk to another Windows 2012 server. There is a exe which you will get it as
You are breaking up.
it
Is
will
it Fayaz speaking?
password, and I believe this is available for 12 hours or something. Then you mount that disk to the VM and explore the disk and take the files and folders whichever you want to copy from that disk. Then you can unmount or restart the only criteria. It has to be supported operating system.
So correct me if we understood rightly. So once we take the backup, we can restore that VHD file and we can mount that VHD file to the existing VM, and we can map that as a drive. And once we restore those specific folders, we can unmount and we can restart the VM.
Yeah, not to the same system. Like if you want to take the files, right? You can do to a Windows Server 2012 server, different server, and get the files.
Okay.
You have two servers. Okay, one is Windows 2012, and you want to. I believe you can do it on the same server too. But same server, there is no point, right?
Yeah.
So if you want to restore it, take another server 2012 server and restore the disk towards to that server. It is something like attaching a disk, mounting a disk. Then take the files from there, copy it over, then attach or unmount.
Okay.
It is a pretty straightforward process where you will get an exe when you try to do the file and restoration. It has been provided from the site itself. You go exe, and this would be applicable for even Linux and Windows.
So Shakti, the question was, from Vijay is, can we do a granular file level restore using Azure backup? Or the backup that we have configured.
Granular means what?
File level. I want to extract single.
Yes, we can take file level also. Now this feature enabled in the Azure. We can take.
Yeah, that's what I was referring to. Earlier it was not, but now you can do it that.
Yes.
So during taking backup as well, we can configure its file level backup.
Yes, in the backup vault you will get that on the top of bar you will get that file level backup or VM level backup.
Yeah, there is a small addition. If you're using a VM from Azure, you won't get file level. That option won't come, but you can restore file level by using the mount option.
It's very
using a on-prem server. You will get file and folder option during the backup.
Yes, for on-prem, we need to install that agent to take a file level backup.
Absolutely right.
So while I'm taking the backup from this Azure portal for any of the VM, so if you can see my screen, where should I select that option to take any specific file level backup?
Go back to the backup vault.
Backup vault.
Yes.
Recovery vault.
Yeah, that's recovery vault.
You need to create one.
So you're not created, right?
No, we have not created.
Yeah, it failed because we don't have permission. But yeah, I mean, as a part of recovery vault creation, you will get that option. That's what I think.
But Neeraj, we did not get any email for that metric alert. I'm checking my emails.
Is it 5 minutes?
Yeah, it's more than 5 minutes now.
Okay, let's see. Let's go back. Look at this. CPU utilization on your VM.
It's 92%.
Okay, it should have triggered. But if you're not, then we have to see how the metric is configured.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, now I got it. Just now I got it.
Can you bring it up for us, please, on the screen? Thank you. All right, so see, this has triggered the percentage CPU, and it has sent you an email that it is. Now the same could have been, instead of email, we could have configured for a webhook. So that webhook would, it can send an email, and it can also call a webhook to create a ticket in your ServiceNow or ITSM or any tool.
Yeah.
All right. Great. I think we completed the lab.
Very
Obviously,
good.
John, go ahead.
Oh, say I see deallocate. Is there anything else I have to do?
So were you able to?
I didn't create the backup failed, so I didn't create a backup file.
Okay, then we are good. Then probably
excellent.
Yeah, so we'll take care, because if backup vault is created, then probably our automated deprovisioning process will not work.
Okay.
That was the caveat.
Okay, so yeah, I didn't make a backup, so I'm in good shape, but I deallocated. Thank you today. It's very informative.
All right.
And I'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, thank you, John, and thank you everybody, for joining.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
And Vijay, thanks for volunteering to show it to all of us. Right? Thanks a lot, and I appreciate Manish and who has made it possible, and everybody who has joined call today. We'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, before we drop out, should I deallocate everything? Should I remove everything, or it will do automatically?
It will take care. Do you have ability to delete the resource group? Can you go ahead and do that?
Let me first try to
click on the resource group on the left side. Resource group, third icon. Yep. No. Okay. So fine. We'll take care.
Okay. All right.
You can delete VM.
All right.
Yeah. Thank you, Neeraj.
Thank you guys. Thank you for everybody. For joining our call today. And this is what makes this community really great. Manish has offered this, and probably we'll have more sessions like this. And I thank you, each and every one of you who joined today, and who even couldn't make it for other reasons. But thank you. Thanks a lot. And we'll see you. We'll talk to you again next week in our another session with Azure Talk. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.